What is the best property strategy? This is a question that us investors ask ourselves constantly. There always seems to be a strategy that is the hottest thing since sliced bread. Everyone wants to get in on it and reap the rewards that can be achieved with this strategy. However, strategies don't last forever and they have life cycles, just like everything else. And when markets change, that often means that certain strategies don't work. For us right now, that strategy that doesn't work at the moment is buy, refurbish, refinance. It does work, but due to the market, it's making it incredibly hard and incredibly saturated and competitive when finding these deals. A few years ago, it was the best strategy that anyone had ever seen. It was an amazing strategy and everyone wanted to get on it. It was a bit like HMOs a few years before. That was buy, refurbish, refinance. But now the market's competitive. Everybody seems to be looking for these deals and it's incredibly hard to find them. So what is the best strategy right now? For us, that strategy right now is buy to SA. Now what is buy to SA? Buy to SA stands for buy to serviced accommodation, and that is essentially where you buy the property with the intention of renting out on a short-term basis, and you'll either be renting it out to the contractor market or to the leisure market. Or you could do both, which is often the case. You'll often see contractors booking up during the weekdays on the property, and then you'll see leisure guests booking up on the weekends and the school holidays and things like that when they're going on holidays or staycations or certain things such as those. So you'll be usually using websites such as booking.com or Airbnb to generate the bookings for your properties, especially in the first place when you've just got the properties on. You may be able to use word of mouth in the future and direct marketing, but at the start you're probably going to be using websites such as booking.com and Airbnb. So why is buy to SA the hottest strategy right now, and why do we believe it is better than buy, refurbish, refinance? The first and the main reason that we believe this is the best strategy right now is because of cash flow and profit. Now these two things are arguably and probably the most important aspect of any property portfolio, because without them it becomes incredibly hard to scale and grow that portfolio quickly. Cash flow is the backbone of any single business that you're running, and you've got to treat your property portfolio as a business if you want to scale it and achieve your goals in the time that you're looking to do. Now, because of the short-term rental model, you can charge a nightly rate for the property, and this nightly rate almost always works out higher than the rate that you would get over the month on a normal buy-to-let. On the serviced accommodation deals that we look at and that we source for our clients, they achieve at least double the amount that you look at on a normal buy-to-let property. So just imagine if you could double the income from your portfolio, take all the other properties and double that income, or even half the time that it takes you to reach your desired income from property. What would that do for your life? What would you be able to do with that time that you've gained back and you've achieved your goals in the shorter amount of time? What would you be able to do with that time? What would you be able to do in 5 years that you're looking to do in 10 years? There's so much possibilities that come from having more cash flow in your portfolio, because this is what gives you the freedom to leave your job. This is what gives you the freedom to make the choice whether you want to work or not. Cash flow is so important. There's a massive emphasis on money left in a deal and return on investment, but it's all irrelevant. If the cash flow is not there, there's no point leaving no money in the deal. You need cash flow to power your portfolio. One thing that I forgot to mention, guys, is that these properties are achieving this income and this profit on a 70% occupancy rate. So it's not even fully optimistic in that sense. It's not even like we're basing that on the best case scenario figures. We're basing that on 70% occupancy on the serviced accommodation property. Another crucial reason as to why we believe buy to serviced accommodation is better than BRRR deals right now is because of the market. It is so competitive out there right now and it is incredibly hard to find deals. With demand up 27% and supply down 6% in the last year, this is only going to get harder. And it's only going to become more and more competitive as more and more people look to invest in property and more people look to grow their portfolios. And often when you're looking at a buy refurbish refinance deal, you're going to have to be putting in offers that are at least sort of £10,000 below the asking price. Sometimes it may not work out like that, but probably at least 7-8 times out of 10, the offer is going to have to be at least £10,000 below the asking price. And in this market, you are not getting offers accepted at that price. They are all getting accepted at asking price or a lot of the time over asking price. So the beauty again of buy refurbished refinance to serviced accommodation or just simply buy to let to serviced accommodation is because of the added cash flow and because of the added profit that you're going to be achieving on these properties. You can offer higher and still achieve the same returns. So you can still be competitive in a market like this, and you can still be acquiring deals in a market like this, having your money work for you rather than just sitting on your hands and your money sitting in the bank getting absolutely nothing in interest. So you're putting your money to work, you're acquiring more properties. So now you're acquiring properties at a faster rate, you're acquiring more properties, and you're actually doubling the income that you're going to get from these properties. So it's not even as if you're taking a worse deal to acquire more properties. You're actually getting better deals with this as well because you're getting more cash flow, which, as I mentioned, is the backbone of any property portfolio. So like I said, you're now doubling your income from these properties and actually acquiring them at a faster rate. Finally, the third reason as to why we believe buy to serviced accommodation is better than buy refurbished refinance right now is because of flexibility. Now, once again, because of the cash flow that you can achieve on these properties, it all comes down to the cash flow here, what I'm mentioning, guys. The cash flow that you can achieve on these properties means that you can utilize multiple buying strategies when you're looking to buy these properties. So you can buy properties that are ready to rent out straight away and you don't need to refurbish them. So you can buy them with a mortgage and there's no hassle there, no refurbishment. You get the profit pretty much as soon as you've completed on the property and it's ready there to rent out for you. Or you could buy the properties that need refurbishing and use the buy refurbish refinance strategy. So then you'd be pulling your money out of the property and obviously recycling that money and buying more properties. Now you would be leaving more money in the deal because you'd be offering higher on the property, but the cash flow, the increased cash flow pays that money back a lot quicker than a standard buy to let would. So once again, you've got the same return on investment that you would have anyway. So what should you actually be looking for then when you are looking at serviced accommodation properties? Firstly, and the most important factor when looking at these deals is area. It's the same for any property. You want to make sure you're buying in the correct area. So what do we look for then? We want to be looking at places that are obviously going to generate a high number of bookings or have a high chance of generating a good number of bookings all year round for your property. So this can often be areas such as seaside towns, tourist cities, or even areas where there's a high level of development and regeneration going on, or there's a high level of employers moving into the area or already in the area. Now, having any of these factors within your area or location that you're looking at will mean that your property has a very good chance of generating a strong number of bookings. And what we typically do is we only look at properties for serviced accommodation that are within 2 miles of the city centre. And this usually means that the property is close to the tourist attractions and also close to the employers and the development going on in the area, meaning it's likely to get bookings from both the contractor and corporate market and the leisure market. So that way you get the best of both worlds, and you don't have to rely as much then on seasonal trends and seasonal analysis. Yes, you're going to get higher and lower prices throughout the year, no matter what, but in terms of the occupancy rates, you don't have to rely on that as much. After this, in terms of your numbers, you want to be making sure that the property is going to be breaking even at 50% occupancy rate. So this is where the serviced accommodation unit or your property is only booked up on 50% of the days in that month. So 50% of the month your property will be completely empty, you'll be generating no revenue from any bookings because you won't have any. So you need to be asking yourself, is that revenue that I've generated from 50% of the month, is that going to be enough to cover all of my costs? And we'll go into what the costs are of serviced accommodation a bit later on. But is that revenue that you're generating going to be enough to cover those costs? You need to be asking yourself that question. So what are the running costs of serviced accommodation then? There is a lot of running costs to consider, and they can vary massively depending on the type of property and the location that you're in. The typical costs that we come across are OTA fees, so that is your fees from your online travel agencies, so booking.com, Airbnb. It's usually around 16% of the booking price, so you need to consider that. You also need to consider your cleaning and your linen fees, so that's for hiring both of them, and then also for the changeovers with guests. So there's two costs there. You also need to consider your bills, so you've obviously got Wi-Fi, utility bills, council tax, sometimes it can be business rates as well. You also want a TV license, things such as consumables as well, so toilet paper, sweets if you're going to put them in the property, cutlery because that will probably break. A lot of things that are going to be used frequently by your guests. Make sure you're accounting for those as well. Finally, what we would recommend massively for a serviced accommodation unit is to get a great management team in place from day one, because managing a serviced accommodation unit is very stressful and it takes a lot of time. So having the management company in place, yes, you're going to have to pay a fee, yes, you're going to lose a bit of profit, but in my eyes, it's worth it every day of the week because it allows you, once again, that freedom. So with a management company, they're going to be dealing with everything, so you don't have to chase the guests, you don't have to chase the cleaners, you don't have to worry about listing it on Airbnb, you don't have to worry about generating bookings. The management company will do all of this for you. So getting that management company in place is really, really important from day one, and building that relationship from day one is really, really important because it makes it then just as stress-free as what a normal buy-to-let would probably be. So why wouldn't you choose to do serviced accommodation? What are the drawbacks of it, and what would make you wary in terms of not going forward with this strategy? What are the drawbacks of it? So higher risk. It's often considered a bigger risk than a standard buy-to-let property because you have to do a lot of the work yourself, or in most cases you do. If you've got a management company, you won't. But let's say it's considered you have to do a lot of the work yourself. It's also considered that the market is very seasonal and it's likely that your property is going to be empty for a longer period of time than it would usually be on a standard tenancy. So you're going to be paying costs for a property that's not being used. However, if you buy in the correct area, do the correct due diligence. So if you buy in the correct area that has one of the factors that I mentioned before, so if it's a tourist city, it's a seaside town, or it's got lots of development or employers in the area, that's number one. So if you buy in the right area, you minimise risk there. If you also base your profit on 70% occupancy and do your break even at 50% occupancy, then you massively minimize this risk because you're taking into account all of the possibilities that could go wrong with the property. Also, if you have a management company in place, again, this massively reduces your risk, especially if you've got a great relationship with them, because the one that we use, they're incredible at generating bookings. And this, again, it comes back to leverage, using experts' knowledge. The management company we work with are absolute experts at generating bookings. So working with that company, they're going to be getting more bookings than you could. I can guarantee it, almost guarantee it. I can't guarantee it fully, but I can almost guarantee it. They'll probably be getting more bookings than you could on your own. So using all of those factors and having all of those factors in place is going to massively reduce that risk for your serviced accommodation unit and for the potential profit that you can earn. In my opinion, it's worth it every day of the week because it's at least double, if not more, based on 70% occupancy. A second reason why you potentially wouldn't choose to go down the serviced accommodation route is that you don't know how to work out the nightly rate for a property. Now, this again is so hard to get your head around at first, and it can be really challenging in terms of working out what the nightly rate is going to be for a property. But what we found really useful is a free tool that you can use. You can pay for a paid version, but there is a free version and it's just as good. It's called AirDNA Rentalizer. Now, this gives you a breakdown. You can put in any postcode. I'm not sure if it does the world, probably does, but we've only used it for the UK. So you can put in any postcode and the number of bedrooms, the number of bathrooms, the number of guests that you're going to be having in the property, and it works out an average nightly rate and also an average occupancy rate for that type of property in that specific area. And this makes it so easy. It's usually accurate in terms of the pricing, and we use this as a sort of a base rate for our property because it's an average. So you may get lower, you may get higher, but we just use that as the base rate for the property. And it makes it so easy to work out what you're going to be getting in terms of rent for the property. You don't have to have the stress of looking at multiple comparables as well. So what would also again help is having that management company in place, because again, if you've got a good relationship with them, the one that we work with, we send the properties to them and they do their own occupancy analysis on it, and they analyse it themselves as if they were taking it on as a property that they were going to let, and then they will send that to us and give us that analysis. So once again, working with a management company, it may cost you more, but the benefits are so much greater. So that again massively minimises the risk, using AirDNA Rentalizer and working with a management company of not knowing how to work out that nightly rate. So guys, what do you think about the buy to serviced accommodation strategy? Has this video made you rethink your strategy and made you consider that you are going to use it and adapt with the current market? We think it's an absolutely amazing strategy, and we've got lots of clients that are looking at the strategy at the moment, and we've done a few deals already with it. So yeah, it's a fantastic strategy, and I definitely think it is going to be a strategy that will stick around and get even bigger in the next few years. So make sure you capitalise on it now, because it's a fantastic opportunity and not many people are utilising it right now. So I really hope you've enjoyed the video, guys. If you had, I'd appreciate it if you could hit that like button, and if you are new around here, I'd really appreciate it if you could hit that subscribe button. Until next time, we'll see you soon for another piece of premium property content.